So, welcome to summer. It's hot. It's gross. Sorry that it's all backlit. I wanted to talk about the battery system that I've referred to a couple times. I think I've mentioned it more than once, and I thought I explained it. I may not have gone into as much detail as I wanted to. I've explained this to a couple people directly, but I think it's important to elaborate. When you have had a brain injury, multiple brain injuries, a severe affecting brain injury, when you have experienced post-concussive symptoms for longer than you really feel like you should be experiencing them, so when it becomes a symptom of itself, so you get struck or you have the injury and it has symptoms, you suffer post-concussive symptoms, but then those symptoms are mostly expected to go away. And for those of us that continue to suffer them for what we might expect to be our whole lives, that is considered a syndrome, not a symptom. I hope that explains that well enough. So, for someone like me that's suffered multiple incidences, by my count 13 at this point, this is never going to go away, the post-concussive. And so at this point, my life is forever changed. I used to be an extremely extroverted, outgoing individual. I almost never needed to recharge my batteries. I just went. And there are parts of my personality that want to be that person and know how that person functions and makes decisions, and will even kind of jump back into the shoes of that person every once in a while and just kind of be that fun-loving, like, I got this, we're having fun, we're gonna go. And there are people that know me better than that, know me better than I almost know myself sometimes, because they'll see me slip into that like who I used to be and be having a great time, and they'll kind of prepare for the crash before I know the crash is coming. And they'll be like, yeah, Jenny's gonna be in bed in about half an hour. And I'll be like, no, I got this all night. And then like in half an hour, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I wanna go to bed. And they're like, yeah, I knew that was coming. Because you don't got that anymore, honey. You're not that young. And that's kind of a really short way to encapsulate that. You're not that young. I'm only 32 right now. But to say it in that kind of short order is quite accurate. I've been through so much in the last few years that my body has aged that much, and it is just not that young anymore. It can't do that. It can do that for, just so long. And then it's done. And I can't be that person anymore. And then I need to go to bed. And I need to recover. And then I probably can't do that for another month. And not 5 years ago, I could do that all night long. And that's a really hard mental adjustment. Most people have 20 years to make that adjustment, that slow adjustment to being that new person. And I had to make that adjustment in 5. And learning to know myself is a huge thing. But, you know, I also have to understand that the friends that know me that well and my husband, that's something that's really difficult for them to get to know too, because they met a person, they know a person, and then that person changes. So here's my super awesome visual help. This would be what a normal person kind of has as their battery use. Battery 1 right here would be a normal work day, 10 hours, sure. So for every 1 hour you use, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on, you would need 1 hour of sleep to recover, okay? So once you get tired, so battery number 2, for every 1, 2, 3 hours that you use, you need about 2 hours of sleep to recover those hours of use. Now on battery 3 over here, that's your auxiliary power. Please ignore how I spelled auxiliary. And for every hour of that battery that you use, you need about 4 hours of sleep recovery right there, okay? So that's how I explain this graph. Alright, so here's graph number 2. So this is my graph. So this would be for anybody that's really suffered from TBIs or brain injuries. You're going to notice that battery number 1, for every hour of use, you're going to need 1 hour of sleep or so. But then you get into your tired battery over here. So for every 1 hour of use, you're going to need 3 hours of sleep. And then for every hour of use in your auxiliary power over here, you're going to need 6 hours of sleep. Now you're also going to notice these dotted lines. At hour 8, it's really going to be a struggle whether or not this 9 and 10 hour are going to bounce over here, okay? And here with this 6 hour, so 7 to 8 hour, whether or not those are going to bounce over here. And at this 4 hour juncture, it's really debatable whether or not you're going to make it into the 5 and 6 hour. And so again, these are whether or not you're going to start needing 3 hours of sleep or just your regular 1 hour of sleep to recover. And this is really debatable whether it's 1 or 1.5 hours of sleep. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but back over here on the regular person's graph, this also adds up to a 24 hours. So this is 10, this is 8, this is 6. That all adds up to 24. So that would be if you were staying up for about 24 hours. So clearly that adds up to a lot of sleep. But that's just a general kind of simple addition of my general thoughts on what it kind of takes to power yourself through a day sleep-wise, especially if you have TBIs. This is kind of how I try and explain to people what it takes to try and mentally power yourself through a day if you have an injured brain. Alright, so to try and pull that back all together, sorry, it's a lot of silly graphs that I've tried to write out. You've heard me refer to the battery system. The way I like to culminate all these batteries. When a person who has a perfectly healthy brain, in terms of being battered around, has to get themselves through a day. They get up in the morning, they do their thing, they go to work. They might get tired, they get home, they do their thing at home. Maybe something stresses them out, they have to push a little harder. They have to push into that tired battery, okay? So if they get a little extra tired, they go to bed a little early. They get a little extra sleep. So that means that they have to, get that recovery. They have to recover their batteries. They have to replenish those batteries. They have to sleep a little extra or what the hell ever, right? They have to recover their energy and replenish the batteries. Make sense? If you have an injured brain, let's say the day goes exactly the same as an uninjured person that I just described. You also have to replenish your batteries. But now refer to the graph. Refer to the recovery sleep time. An injured brain has to sleep longer to recover the hours used in those batteries. Just because it takes that much longer to recover the battery voltage. Like I said, you know, for every hour used, it takes the injured brain 3 hours on that tired battery, when it takes the normal brain 2 hours. And so let's say that injured brain, you know, falls into that dotted area I was talking about, and so it kind of got pushed into that 3-hour realm, and so that person actually needs to, you know, recover that extra amount of sleep. Well, if the normal person and the injured person are living, you know, very similar lives, and an extra stressful week comes up, that 3 hours versus 2 hours of recovery time in the tired battery is eventually gonna add up, and the injured person's brain is eventually going to require more sleep to recover that battery juice than they're going to be able to get. And so eventually they're going to have to push into the auxiliary power where the normal person's brain is not. And so they're going to be more tired during their week. And it's going to affect their health. It's going to affect their life. And that is what happens to me on a frequent basis. And so I'm sure that everybody that's had a brain injury can really relate to that. Because when you begin to feel tired, when you begin to push into that auxiliary power, and when you begin to feel that you're not getting enough sleep to recover those battery juices, if that's what you want to call it, you begin to feel overwhelmed. Your brain is not able to deal with life and what's going on inside of it. It's just not. And when you're trying to think about both things at once, or when your brain is trying to recover or deal with its symptoms or deal with the pain or whatever the F is going on, and deal with real life, and it's not rested enough, you're just going to melt down. There's nothing you can do about it. Physiology is what it is. I have tried to outsmart my body my entire life, and I have very rarely won. I could probably give myself a trophy on A for effort for trying to fight my body, and my body almost always wins. I don't win that fight. Physiology does. If any of you feel overly overwhelmed at any given time, I really hope that this helps break it down or explain it. You're human, you're not alone. I'm here with you. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please throw them at me. Before you criticize, ask yourself why you're criticizing. But it's a free world. This is a safe space, or at least I'm trying to build one. So, yeah, enjoy and thank you.